You are watching a closer look. The National Fisheries Authority went ahead this year in hosting the 8th Pacific Tuna Forum, where fisheries ministers, tuna investors and experts, together with the Pacific Island delegates, attended the Tuna Forum in Port Moresby. This forum saw industry experts share ideas and knowledge of the tuna industry.
The 8th Pacific Tuna Forum, hosted by PNG in Port Moresby, brought together Pacific fisheries ministers, stakeholders, industry experts, international delegates from Australia and New Zealand, and tuna investors to share and discuss ideas and ways the tuna industry can be managed when it comes to tuna sustainability. To begin the discussion and have the floor open for more dialogue amongst the leaders and the delegates, Managing Director for the National Fisheries Authority, Justin Ilakini, started off with the speeches.
The Pacific Island countries, we value the importance of maintaining dialogue, as can be seen by the numerous regional fisheries conferences. And like I've mentioned, today we have the heads of organizations of very important organizations in the region. Over the last 3 decades, we have been managing this resource. And we can tap ourselves on the shoulder and say that we have indeed managed this resource really well. And the resource in this region is the most healthiest. Having managed the resource for the last 3 decades, the people of the Pacific, through their governments, have an aspiration to start tapping into that resource. Tuna development investment have, however, not been given the same level of priority as what we have been giving in terms of managing the resource sustainably over the last 3 decades or so. It is therefore pleasing to see the number of Pacific Island countries, our respective ministers from the Pacific senior government officials, represented here today and tomorrow. It is my hope that the presentations and discussions that will be held over the next 2 days will contribute to putting sustainable tuna development and investment issues front and center for governments, industry, associated stakeholders throughout the Pacific region. The sharing of quality and useful information in the Tuna Forum will contribute towards enabling our region to evolve from only focusing on sustainable tuna management to embracing opportunities in investments, so as to achieve a greater retention of the market value of this billion-dollar tuna fishery to remain within our region.
This was followed by the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Lands and Physical Planning, John Rosso.
To pursue sustainable investments in tuna fishery sector, our trajectory hinges on harnessing our resources judicially and propelling our communities forward. We strive towards a future where Papua New Guinea stands tall as a beacon for sustainable resource development, anchored in shared prosperity and holistic growth with all our Pacific Island nations.
Several delegates then went on to speak and share various topics when it comes to the tuna industry in the Pacific. Industry experts from InfoFish and FFA and NFA, as well as other important stakeholders and tuna industry experts, together with the tuna investors, all shared their concerns on our tuna industry in the Pacific and how it can be managed.
For me, who came first to Solomon Islands, as I said, 30 years ago, it's a great pleasure and a source of great satisfaction to see the way that fishery has been developed in the region, because the great things that have been done in this fishery, industrially and in terms of fishery management, have all been done through cooperation between the countries. There's nothing that a single country could have achieved meaningfully on its own. It's come about because of regional organizations, whether that's the South Pacific Community, the Forum Fisheries Agency, or the parties to the Nauru Agreement. These have been the engines that have driven successful fishery management, and I think we can say that the fishery in the Western Central Pacific is, thank heavens, one of the best managed in the world.
Several SME and international businesses surrounding the tuna and fisheries industry also had the opportunity to set up their stalls for visitors and international investors to visit. Amongst these were the organizers' corner from the National Fisheries Authority. The two-day discussions continued as more and more discussions were tabled on the floor.
So if you look at Fiji, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, we do have trade arrangements with the EU that enables us to export our products that is processed in our countries duty-free, quota-free. So that gives us that leverage to produce tuna at a much lesser cost as compared to maybe those countries who might not have similar preferential market arrangements. But we begin to increasingly see that there is a need for regional collaboration and cooperation. And I think market access is also that area that the FFA membership will have to rally together to work in that space. And I think there is discussions, and Dr. Manu can confirm or further elaborate on that, is that there has been discussions on having a regional competent authority to help countries who may not have the capacity to set up their own competent authorities. And that work, I believe, has been ongoing. And if I can recall, has been advanced up in the FSM and I think other countries as well. But if you really look at it, it's the commitment of respective countries that must, put in the resources, build those capacities so that they can have their own competent authorities as well.
I want to emphasize that this forum is the Pacific Forum. The eastern and western parts of the Great Pacific Ocean may have their own RFMOs and tuna industries, but we are one single ocean. The tunas swim across boundaries, unaware, as far as I know, of RFMOs or EEZs. El Nino and La Nina impact us all, as does ocean pollution, free trade agreements, and global politics. Cooperation is not optional, it's a necessity. And there can be no cooperation without understanding. This forum is an opportunity to further such understanding, and we now have a long list of distinguished and knowledgeable speakers, each of which will, I'm sure, have plenty to tell us that will be both informative, insightful, and useful. Another important challenge for all of us is to strive to create for tuna the value it deserves. Tuna, natural, nourishing, and versatile, shouldn't be selling per can for less than a cup of tea or coffee in a cafe chain near you. It's a precious and wild resource whose management, capture, processing, and marketing all justify higher prices than we've seen in recent years. And from an industry perspective, it would be helpful if, while competing vigorously with each other, we refrain from doing so by making statements or taking actions that detract from the value of the tuna category as a whole.
More discussions continued where the Pacific community will stay informed and connected when it comes to tuna fishing in the Pacific waters through EU, InfoFish, FFA and PNG NFA.
And that's all we have for you on tonight's episode. Join us same time next week, Sunday, for another Closer Look episode. From all of us here, pleasant viewing and goodbye.